Hi Faisal, let's take a look at your first set of essays. It's the education versus entertainment essay. Let's see what you said. Educational institutes are meant solely for the purpose of education. Many people believe this to be true, while others argue that schools should be made more interesting along with its primary purpose. This essay will discuss about how making the schools more entertaining can positively influence the future of children. Okay, get rid of about here. So this essay will discuss how making the schools more entertaining, etc., etc. Mental relaxation and motivation are the two main factors that shall support this argument. Okay, fine. Let's see how you developed your paragraphs now. Firstly, inclusion of activities like sports, dance, debate, etc. in schools can help children relax their mind. These result in, no comma, no s here, children having a good grasp of the subjects taught in the institute. A study by Harvard University stated, no comma, educational institutes that encourage children to participate in cultural and sports activities tend to have children, we don't write kids in IELTS essays, perform academically well compared to those schools, no, compared to children in schools which solely focus on education. Thus, it can be concluded that adding entertainment an entertainment factor along with education can help a child do wonders. You don't make wonders, you do wonders. Secondly, making the experience of school more enjoyable creates motivation among students. Okay. This is due to the fact that when children enter the zone of competition with fellow classmates, they strive, not they thrive, they strive to be better than themselves every time. For instance, New York Times report, we say the New York Times, by the way, reported that, no comma, the majority of teenagers, no the, in universities, no you, no capital here. Let me try it again. So, for instance, the New York Times reported that the majority of teenagers in universities who are highly motivated have attended schools that encourage children to participate in extracurricular activities. Okay. Hence, involvement of children in activities parallel to education prepares them for future endeavors by arousing motivation in them. All right, I have to think about this paragraph a little bit. Okay, let me tell you why I had to reread this a couple of times. So here, you're talking about motivation, and that motivation answers to the name competition. All right? And then you talked about extracurricular activities. So the connection here is not 100% clear because extracurricular activities don't always involve competition. So you needed to say extracurricular activities that involve competition. So perhaps sports, perhaps games, perhaps debate. Like I said, there are extracurricular activities that don't have any element of competition whatsoever. And so also, you have to remember that does this competition create entertainment? That's another thing that we cannot forget, that the idea is schools that entertain, because some people would argue that competition is stressful and it's not entertaining. All right, so be careful with this. That's why I had to read this paragraph 2 or 3 times. So make sure that you're focusing, number one, on entertainment. That's the key here. If you think that competition is entertaining, then you need to somehow state that. And if you're stating that if you're implying that these extracurricular activities do have elements of competition and entertainment in them, then you have to say that too. Okay? Alrighty, so to conclude from the examples and arguments presented, I firmly agree that schools, colleges, and universities shall not be only meant to educate children, but to make it interesting for them to attend by adding sports and other activities like singing, dancing, playing instruments, etc. Okay. In near future, all schools shall overcome this missing component and shall top the list for students as the best place to visit. Okay, it's fine. I need you to think about what I mentioned here primarily. All right. In terms of the development, not only development, so it's not just task achievement, it's also coherence and cohesion, because then the question becomes, well, how well do your ideas connect to each other? All right, so on the one hand, we're dealing with the relevance of your ideas to the task, but it's also the ideas that you do write, how well do they connect to each other? So what you're going to see is something like this is going to affect both of those criteria. Okay, task achievement and coherence and cohesion. Let's see how you did with this one. This is the enjoyable activity with a child, skills, and creativity. Let's see. First thing I can tell you is that we don't write kids in an IELTS essay. It's always children. Kids is too informal, so get rid of it. Okay. Parents' involvement with their children in several entertaining activities apart from reading can open a door for new skills and create an ability in a child to think outside the box. This essay will discuss the pros of participation of parents with their children in various indoor and outdoor activities that cannot be developed by only reading books. Okay, hold on a second. Now, check out what you just said here. Discuss the pros of participation of parents. Okay, what cannot be developed? The participation of parents? That's what you're implying here, but that's not what you mean. You want to say the pros of skills developed by children. I mean, you want to say something else. It's the skills that are being developed. It's not the participation that is being developed. So you have to rephrase this entire sentence so that you're referring to skills and creativity and not participation that's being developed. Mental and physical well-being are the two aspects that shall back up this argument. Okay, fine. Firstly, participation of parents with their children in indoor activities helps children to foster their brain. Activities like video games, pool, chess, etc. because it's activities, make children more responsive and activities make children exercise their brain, which in turn will lead them to learn new things in a short span of time. A recent study by Times of India stated that guardians who are involved with their growing children in various indoor activities help children to have better performance academically. Yeah, this doesn't work. Than if they just read. Okay, that's the comparison here. So than if they just read. So they perform better academically than if they just read, and this should be an A, not an E. Secondly, children can become stronger physically if parents indulge them in playing outdoor games. Activities like playing soccer, tennis, cricket, and other sports benefit children in terms of stamina and create a feeling of performing better both academically and physically, which by virtue of reading cannot be achieved. Good. For instance, Stanford University released a data citing that they didn't release a data, they released a study citing that, and citing is spelled wrong. Check out the spelling for citing. 80% of its new admissions reflected the development of skills, which were due to significant involvement of the parents in activities apart from reading. Okay, so what are we talking about here? We're talking about stamina and a feeling of well-being. Here we're talking about response time and just better academic performance. All right, let's go to your conclusion. To conclude from the examples and arguments presented, I firmly agree that custodians of children should, not shall, should jointly perform activities to help develop skills in their children rather than just encouraging them to read books. In the near future, all parents will engage with their offspring to make them cope with the fast-paced moving society. All right. So, I covered what each paragraph discussed. I just said that before I read your conclusion. Let's take a look at how relevant that is to the actual essay. It talked about developing better skills, which you certainly covered. You talked about stamina, you talked about academic performance, etc. But it also says, and more creativity. Where in this essay did you discuss how these activities help develop creativity? As far as I could tell, you didn't, okay? Now, the essay doesn't ask just for better skills, but this is a huge part of what it's asking. You did a really nice job of comparing these activities to reading and you said how reading falls short in comparison to these other things, but you never discussed this, and you absolutely have to. Now, if it had said better skills or creativity, then you would have been okay. You would have had the option to ignore creativity, but it didn't. You've got that and there, which means they absolutely expect you to answer this, okay? Keep that in mind. You're going to have to incorporate creativity in this essay when you rewrite it. So let's talk about what you have to do next. You have to correct these essays based on my suggestions, and then return them back to us corrected. Also, you have to create an error correction list. What you'll do is you'll write down all the mistakes that were pointed out to you, and then next to each mistake, what the suggested correction is. You're going to add to that list with each subsequent video correction you get back. So send that back to us as well. The third thing you'll have to do, of course, is write a new set of essays using the feedback and all the materials that you've been using and gaining so far in the course. So go ahead and get those things started. I recommend that you do them all within the next day or so you can really apply everything you've been learning, okay? Good job for your first set of essays. The structure of the essays is good. You just have to be aware of some of those other elements that I discussed throughout your essays. Okay, good job. Let's meet back here with your new set of essays. Lots of good luck to you, Faisal.